Jerome Bruner's pioneering work in cognitive psychology revolutionized our understanding of human thought and behavior. His groundbreaking theories on narrative storytelling and constructivist learning transformed the way we approach education and personal development. Get ready to unravel the fascinating life and legacy of a man who forever changed the landscape of psychology. Born on October 1, 1915 in New York City, Bruner grew up in a family that valued education and encouraged intellectual curiosity. His parents, Hermann and Rachel Bruner, were both immigrants from Poland, and their experiences as newcomers to America likely influenced Jerome's later interests in cultural psychology and the role of narrative in shaping identity. Bruner's childhood was marked by a series of eye-opening experiences that would eventually shape his theoretical perspectives. For instance, he suffered from congenital cataracts, which left him blind until the age of 2. This early encounter with visual impairment might have instilled in him a deeper appreciation for the complex interplay between perception, cognition, and environment. As he navigated the world with newfound sight, Bruner developed an insatiable curiosity about how people make sense of their surroundings and construct meaning from their experiences. As he progressed through his educational journey, Bruner found himself drawn to the fields of psychology and philosophy. He attended Duke University, where he earned his undergraduate degree in 1937, and later moved on to Harvard University for his graduate studies. It was during this period that Bruner began to explore the works of prominent psychologists, including Kurt Lewin and Gordon Allport, who would later become influential figures in his own theoretical development. Under the guidance of his mentors, Bruner became increasingly fascinated with the concept of perception and its relationship to cognitive processes. His early research focused on the role of context in shaping perception, which laid the groundwork for his future work on narrative storytelling and constructivist learning. One notable example from this period is his study on the perception of coins, where he demonstrated how people's judgments about the size of coins were influenced by the surrounding context, a finding that has since been replicated in various domains, from marketing to education. As Bruner's academic career gained momentum, he found himself at the forefront of the cognitive revolution, a movement that sought to challenge traditional behaviorist approaches and emphasize the active role of mental processes in shaping human behavior. His collaborations with contemporaries like George Miller and Ulrich Neisser helped shape the emerging field of cognitive psychology, with Bruner's work on narrative and constructivist learning playing a pivotal role in this paradigm shift. One of the most significant aspects of Bruner's theoretical contributions was his emphasis on the importance of narrative in human cognition. He argued that people make sense of their experiences by creating stories, narratives that impose meaning and structure on the world around them. This idea, which he termed narrative construction, has far-reaching implications for our understanding of human thought, emotion, and behavior. For instance, consider how people often recount traumatic events through a narrative lens, using storytelling as a means of making sense of their experiences and integrating them into their broader life narrative. Bruner's work on narrative construction also had significant implications for education, as he advocated for a more constructivist approach to learning, one that emphasizes the active role of learners in creating their own knowledge and meaning. This perspective has since influenced educational theory and practice, with many educators now recognizing the importance of encouraging students to become active constructors of their own understanding rather than passive recipients of information. As Bruner's work on narrative construction continued to gain traction, he began to explore its implications for education in more depth. One of the key concepts he developed during this period was the idea of the scaffolding of learning, where educators provide temporary support and guidance to help students build their own understanding of complex concepts. This approach, which emphasized the importance of active learning and student-centered instruction, resonated with many educators who were looking for alternatives to traditional didactic methods. Bruner's collaborations with other prominent psychologists, such as Lev Vygotsky, also influenced his thinking on this topic. Vygotsky's concept of the zone of proximal development, which refers to the range of knowledge and skills that a student can acquire with guidance but not independently, aligns closely with Bruner's ideas about scaffolding. Together, these concepts highlight the critical role that social interaction and collaborative learning play in the development of cognitive abilities. One notable example of Bruner's work on scaffolding can be seen in his research on language development in children. In a series of studies, he demonstrated how young children use language to construct meaning and negotiate their relationships with others. By analyzing the ways in which children use narrative structures, such as storytelling and dialogue, to make sense of their experiences, Bruner showed how language serves as a tool for both cognitive and social development. Bruner's emphasis on the social and cultural context of learning also led him to explore the role of culture in shaping cognitive processes. He argued that cognitive development is not solely the result of individual efforts, but rather is deeply influenced by the cultural and historical contexts in which we live. This perspective, which emphasizes the importance of understanding cognition as a culturally situated process, has had significant implications for our understanding of human development and learning. In his book, The Culture of Education, Bruner explores this idea in more depth, examining how different cultures approach education and cognitive development. He argues that Western societies, in particular, tend to emphasize individualism and competition in education, whereas other cultures may prioritize cooperation and collective achievement. By highlighting these differences, Bruner encourages educators to think more critically about the cultural assumptions that underlie their teaching practices and to consider alternative approaches that may be more effective in promoting deep learning and understanding. As Bruner's work on narrative construction and scaffolding continued to influence educational theory and practice, he began to explore the implications of these ideas for teacher training and professional development. He argued that teachers should be educated to become facilitators of learning rather than mere transmitters of knowledge, and that they should be encouraged to reflect critically on their own practices and assumptions. One notable example of Bruner's work in this area can be seen in his collaboration with the British educator, Margaret Donaldson. Together, they developed a program for teacher training that emphasized the importance of creating a supportive and interactive learning environment where students were encouraged to take an active role in constructing their own knowledge. This approach, which they termed teacher as researcher, encouraged teachers to view themselves as co-learners with their students rather than as authorities imparting wisdom. Bruner's emphasis on the importance of social interaction and collaborative learning also led him to explore the role of technology in education. In the 1980s, he became interested in the potential of computers to facilitate new forms of learning and communication, and he began to work with educators and technologists to develop innovative uses for technology in the classroom. One significant project that emerged from this work was the development of a computer-based system for teaching children about science and mathematics. The system, which Bruner called the Learning Laboratory, used interactive simulations and games to engage students in hands-on learning activities, and it provided teachers with tools and resources to support student-centered instruction. Through his work on the Learning Laboratory, Bruner was able to demonstrate the potential of technology to enhance teaching and learning, while also highlighting the importance of careful design and pedagogical consideration. He argued that technology should be used to support, rather than replace, human interaction and social learning, and that educators should be mindful of the ways in which technology can shape our understanding of knowledge and cognition. As Bruner's career continued to evolve, he became increasingly interested in the relationship between psychology and culture. He began to explore the ways in which cultural norms and values influence our understanding of human development and learning, and he argued that psychologists should be more attentive to the cultural contexts in which they work. In his book Acts of Meaning, Bruner developed a nuanced analysis of the complex interplay between culture, cognition, and education. He drew on examples from anthropology, sociology, and psychology to illustrate the ways in which cultural narratives shape our understanding of ourselves and the world around us, and he argued that educators should strive to create learning environments that are sensitive to these cultural dynamics. As Bruner delved deeper into the complexities of human cognition and culture, he began to explore the concept of narrative in greater detail. He argued that narratives are not just passive accounts of events, but rather active constructions of meaning that shape our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. In his book, Making Stories Law Literature, Bruner examined the ways in which narratives are used to create meaning and establish identity, drawing on examples from literature, law, and everyday life. One notable example that illustrates Bruner's concept of narrative is the way in which people construct their own life stories. He suggested that individuals use narrative to make sense of their experiences, creating a coherent and meaningful account of their lives. This process of narrative construction is not just a passive reflection of events, but rather an active process of selection, interpretation, and revision. Bruner argued that this narrative process is essential to human cognition, as it allows us to create meaning and establish a sense of identity. Bruner's work on narrative also led him to explore the relationship between culture and cognition in greater depth. He argued that cultural narratives shape our understanding of the world and ourselves, influencing the way we think, feel, and behave. For example, he examined how different cultures construct narratives around concepts such as time, space, and causality, and how these narratives influence our perception of reality. This work highlighted the importance of considering the cultural context in which cognition takes place, and demonstrated how narrative can be used to both reflect and shape cultural values. In addition to his work on narrative, Bruner also maintained a strong interest in education and teacher training. He continued to advocate for a more nuanced approach to teaching, one that recognized the complex interplay between culture, cognition, and learning. Bruner's ideas about education and narrative were influential in shaping the field of educational psychology, and his work continues to be widely read and studied today. His emphasis on the importance of culture, narrative, and social interaction in shaping human cognition has had a lasting impact on our understanding of learning and development. Bruner's later work also explored the concept of folk psychology, which refers to the everyday, intuitive understanding of human behavior and mental states that people use to navigate their social worlds. He argued that folk psychology is an essential aspect of human cognition, as it allows us to make sense of others' actions and intentions, and to coordinate our own behavior with theirs. Bruner's work on folk psychology highlighted the importance of considering the social and cultural context in which cognition takes place, and demonstrated how narrative can be used to both reflect and shape our understanding of human behavior. Through his work on folk psychology, Bruner also began to explore the relationship between cognition and emotion, arguing that emotional experiences play a crucial role in shaping our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. He suggested that emotions are not just passive responses to events, but rather active constructions of meaning that influence our perception, attention, and memory. This work highlighted the importance of considering the emotional dimension of human experience in any account of cognition, and demonstrated how narrative can be used to both reflect and shape our emotional lives. Jerome Bruner's profound impact on the field of psychology is a testament to the power of interdisciplinary thinking and the importance of considering culture, narrative, and social interaction in understanding human cognition. His legacy continues to inspire new generations of researchers and educators, reminding us that learning is not just about acquiring knowledge, but about creating meaning and constructing our own narratives. That's all for today's Psych with Sigmund. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.